All right, boys, good morning. Just to share with you a short idea. So this week, Baruch Hashem, we have the great Zechus to begin Shemos. In the Shemos, we're introduced to three incredibly heroic women. Who were they? Miriam. Sorry? Moshe Rabbeinu. Good. We'll get to Moshe in just a second. What about the two other women? Right? We've got Shifra and Puah. Right, we've got Shifra, Puah, and there's a third brave and heroic woman as well, Benny? Paro's daughter, whose name was? Bisya. Excellent. An interesting idea about whether her name was actually Bisya, or whether that's just like a descriptive name. Because Bisya means what? What's the translation of Bisya? What two words? Bat Ka, the daughter of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So was that her actual name? Was it a descriptive name? Okay. So I want to show you something very interesting. So remember again, we're introduced to Miriam and Yocheved in the beginning of the parsha, where Paro, right, his astrologers tell him that there's going to be a savior for the Jewish people who's born, but we don't know again if it's a boy from the Jews or a boy from the Egyptians. So Paro says, really focused on the Jews, says, Kalabein hayilot hayor tashlichu. Throw the boys into the Nile. And the truth is, even before that, Paro calls over the midwives, and he says to them, if you see that a Jewish woman has given birth to a boy, kill the baby right there. A dramatic and overwhelming decree. And the Torah identifies these two women, these two midwives, who Paro tried to kind of conscript. He tried to engage in his plan. And the names were Shifra and Puah. Anyone know what the names of Shifra and Puah are? What do they mean? All right, we got to start like a Shtayim Mikra over here or something, right? And you know Shifra and Puah? So Shifra, Rashi, Benny, go ahead. Excellent. Beautiful. So that's Puah, right? Puah is a lashon of poet, Rashi says, which means like to coo to the baby. And Shifra, shemishaperes hasavla, that she would clean up the baby after birth. So Shifra and Puah, and again, Rashi identifies who are Shifra and Puah. They're Miriam and Yocheved. So the first thing we're introduced to these two incredible women, Shifra and Puah, midwives who Paro tried to get them to kill the Jewish babies, but they did not comply. So the Lubavitcher Rebbe asks a fascinating question. He says, I don't understand. He says, for the first time the Torah is introducing us to these two women, to Miriam and Yocheved, but it's not using their actual names. We only know their actual names later on, when they're identified as Yocheved and Miriam. But the first time in Shemos that the Torah introduces us to these two women, it's not with their given names. It's not with Miriam and Yocheved, but instead it's with their descriptive names, Shifra and Puah. And the obvious shayla is why? Why go ahead and introduce us to these two? Wouldn't it have made more sense? Tell me. There's Miriam and Yocheved, and by the way, Miriam and Yocheved are also known by other names, namely Shifra and Puah. But start first with the primary name, and then later on tell me the descriptive name. Any thoughts? Any thoughts as to why that would be? Why begin with the descriptive name and then only afterwards the given name? Good kasha, no? So the Rebbe says something beautiful. Listen to this. Rav Sheva says, in life, there are two names that you get. There's a name that you get at birth. That's the name that your parents give you. And you know, the Gemara Masechus Megillah brings down that the Gemara says, Minalan deshma garim. How do you know that your name captures your essence? Meaning, when parents give children a name, there's almost a certain amount of Ruach HaKodesh, of prophecy that goes into it, because your name captures your essence. That's your given name. But the Rebbe says there's another name also. And that's the name you get through your Maisim Tovim. That's the name you get through your actions, through your decisions, through your dynamic activity. What you do, the decisions you make, the choices you make, they also give you a name. They also give you a shame. Right? They give you a name, they give you an identity. We have these two identities in life, the one you're given at birth and the one you create for yourself through the decisions you make, through the actions you engage in. Which one is more important? Your given name or your earned name? What would you say? Why?
Because it's what you are, you earned it.
Beautiful. You see, the Rebbe says your earned name is much more important than your given name. Because at the end of the day, what did you do for your given name? What did you do? What did you do for that? Nothing. In other words, you didn't do anything. In other words, right, for your given, right, that's the earned name. We're going to get to that in just a second. Good. For your given name, you didn't really do anything. You were born. You were born shkoyach. You didn't do anything to be born, right? You were just born, and then your parents give you that name. You don't get any credit for that. That's not a reflection on you. It could be ultimately a window into who and what you're going to be. But at the end of the day, that's not a shkoyach to you. What do you get a shkoyach for? Your earned name. Your earned name represents your accomplishments. Your earned name represents what you do, who you are, the choices that you make. That, says the Lubavitcher Rebbe, that's your real name. That's your dominant name. And that's why the Rebbe says, remember again, Shifra and Puah were descriptive names. Those were the names based not on what their parents named them at birth, but those were the names that ultimately, again, were reflective of the difficult decisions they had to make, the major activities they had to engage in, the heroic events that they had to orchestrate and choreograph. And it's incredibly important for us to think about that. Because says Rabbi, each of us has these two names. What do you want? Sometimes people get a name and they're not so excited with their name. Maybe you're named after this relative, they don't love the name so much. Okay, you can't do all that much with your birth name. Right? Whatever name you have, that's the name you got. But with your earned name, you could create whatever name for yourself you want. You see this all the time, right? There are certain people, that guy, right? He's like the clown, like he's the Let's, right? And he gets a name like that. And this one maybe is the athlete. And this one is the Talmud Chacham. And this one has the Midos Tovos. And this guy, the good friend. And this one, reliable. We create different names for ourselves based on the decisions we make in life and the things we decide to do. That name, you control. So the Torah, when it introduces us to these incredible women, and really all three women, right? We don't know what Bas Paro, I guarantee you one thing. Bas Paro, the daughter of Paro, one thing I can tell you for sure is that she was not named at birth Bisya. How do we know that? She wasn't Jewish. In other words, her given name, right, when she was born to Paro and Mrs. Paro, was not Bisya. That was not her name. And the same way that Miriam wasn't Puah and Yocheved wasn't Shifra. Those weren't their birth names. So the three women, and by the way, and three heroic women of this week's parsha, Torah introduces us to all of them never using their birth name. Why? Because the name that you're given at birth is not nearly as important as the name you create for yourself through the decisions you make, through the activities you engage in, through the life that you lead. You can't control the name you're given, but you absolutely control the name that you earn. Should just be Zocheh, Meretz Hashem, all of us. There's big things happening in the world. Now, I'm sure you guys are following the news a little bit, and the Israeli government signed the ceasefire deal with Hamas that is going to see, Meretz Hashem, the release of 33 hostages beginning next week. And there's a lot of discussion about whether or not it's a good deal, not a good deal. Should the army just keep fighting and just pounding Hamas? We know that you can't negotiate with terrorists. That's an overwhelming thing. But at the same time, whether it's a good deal or not a good deal, I don't know. There are people much smarter and people much more knowledgeable about this matter who could say whether it's good or whether it's not. But one thing which is incredible, which is that there are going to be precious men, women, and children who are coming home next week to their mishpachas. And that's an incredible thing. Which means that there's something happening in the world that is allowing for this beautiful event to occur for Klal Yisrael. And whenever you see something dramatic occurring, it's always a time that is ripe to do something different in your own life. When you see something different happening in the world, that means there's a Hisorirus, there's an awakening. And I could do something different inside of me. A lot of times in life, we walk through life with the same name. And maybe you're a little bit tired of your name. I don't mean your given name. I mean your earned name. Maybe you're just a little bit tired of always being that guy. So become someone different. Make a new name for yourself. Create a new identity for yourself. And just know that the name that you create will always be holier than the name that you were given. All right, boys, I wish you a wonderful last day of the week. Hatzlacha Rabbah, restful Shabbos, and Shkoyach, everyone.